So we have all this typography, and we're going to talk about how to lay out typography in more detail in the next project. But I do feel like we need to change this typography. And the only typography we've used in the brand so far is this Georgia. And if we were to continue to use Georgia, let's say that the client wanted to have another version of their logo that said Sophia Green, Life Coaching. And let's just do Life Coaching for now, since we're going to have her name on the other side. We have Life Coaching. So this is when font pairing is so important, because right now these compete with each other. Right now they're both the same typeface. They both have the same spacing. There needs to be some kind of contrast to differentiate between the two, because there's a lot going on that's the same. So let's see if we can't find a nice complementary font pairing for the secondary type. As we know, a great font pairing for a serif is not another serif, but a sans serif. So we can go ahead and filter out and just have sans serifs. And we could do something simple and do Helvetica. We can do, remember some of the other ones that we chose in the brainstorming process that we liked, but we didn't want to use it for the main symbol. We can go back to some of those. But I'm going to use a free one that everybody has access to via Google Fonts. This one's called Open Sans. It's a free typeface. I'm just going to do a nice and medium weight. Let's do regular. And we can even collapse the spacing between this a little bit. Just trying to find ways to add contrast between the top and the bottom. Maybe we can get away with a little bit of a bolder weight. Let's do semi-bold. And because this is such an elegant brand, I mean, normally I'd be okay with that contrast, but let's add even a wider spacing here. Let's just try out 800 and make it small. So it's important, but it's not as important as the brand name. And I'm just going to make sure that's all evenly aligned. Just going to select all three of those elements. I'm going to go up here to my Align panel, and I'm going to do a horizontal align center. We're going to be doing a lot of that later on in the course. So just kind of putting that there. So malleable life coaching, now I know what it is. It's not just some random symbol. It actually has kind of a industry specific tagline to it. So that's really great for being practical. So I'm going to move these gradient panels back out of the way. We don't need those anymore. And now that we have a secondary typeface established, we now have hierarchy. So we have Georgia as our main typeface and Open Sans as our secondary typeface. So now let's take all of this typography. Let's just take the eyedropper tool, or I can just go back up and just go, what was that bottom one? Open Sans, that one will be easy. So let's just apply Open Sans to all of this typography. Let's do a regular weight for now. And when it comes to sizing on a business card, you never want to make it so small that it's not legible, but you never want to make it so big that it looks kind of unprofessional when it's just like gigantic. It just looks just kind of unpolished. So what I like to do, this is kind of the point size up here. I try to not keep important information under 8 or 7. So I'm going to keep it at 8 for now. So I think that's kind of a nice size. So this is what we have to work with. Let's get a sense of type hierarchy going. I'm going to just go up to my Align panel, align everything here. What is the most important part of this block of text? How can we group things together to make it feel cohesive? I feel like the website traditionally goes on the bottom. I feel like the phone number is the most important item on here, followed by email. So I'm just kind of starting to group things together. I feel like Sophia Green and Life Coaching go together. I feel like these two go together. And I feel like the website can kind of be on its own somewhere. So you can see just with some very slight grouping that we did, it's already starting to look more refined. So let's kind of find positioning here. We can put the logo here again as kind of a brand tie-in from the front. We can even just bring in the symbol here. Just bringing in the symbol. This could also be gold foil stamping when it's printed. We can even do a watermark. So I could even release, if you ever want to release a clipping mask, this has that little photo on it. If I ever say, okay, I want my symbol back, just right click, release the clipping mask. It's going to release it. And now you have the two elements on its own again. And we still have our gradient saved, which is great. So I'm just going to do my gradient again. There's my gradient, just over here in my gradient panel. Just loading that back in and trying to find that gradient. So we can even, we can go to transparency. That's our transparency. We can reduce, if I ever want to reduce the opacity of a layer, I could do that by just going here and reducing the opacity. And you can have like a little watermark here, as opposed to having the repeat of the logo. So there's watermark opportunities we can do with this as well. So just making that a neutral gray, because sometimes gradients, when they're reduced in transparency, they don't look as quite as good. But I am going to take this gradient and just save it. I'm just going to create like a little box. So now that I have that gradient, if I ever wanted to recall that gradient, I have a little swatch here. I can also save it in my swatch panel as well. I could drag it into my swatch panel and I have it saved right there. You can save all your swatches. Okay, so now I feel like we need a little type hierarchy here. Let's take our Sophia Green and make it bigger. And let's take our life coaching and make it italics, because usually titles, it's kind of nice to have something a little bit different like an italic. So we're just kind of slowly refining things. Let's make the P for phone. Let's make it bold. And let's make that bold. So we're just trying to find contrast in how we're doing things here. We can make malleable bold as well, but keep .com kind of a thinner weight. So see how it's slowly kind of being crafted together here just by using type hierarchy and contrast between our typography elements. Okay, and that's when divider lines are sometimes helpful. I can just get the line segment tool. I have the line segment tool, going to click and drag and just creating a simple line. I can make this a stroke. So let's make it a gold, flip that to stroke. And let's go to my stroke panel. There's my stroke panel. I'm just going to give it some nice rounded caps to it. So you can kind of see how it has a nice polished look. This would be a butt cap, which is sharp, and this would be a round cap. I just think it just adds a little more professionalism to them. And we can make that a solid color too. Let's go back to our solid color. And let's see if we can't make this maybe that deeper color. We've developed kind of a new color palette based on actually applying it to something, which is going to be different. These three just didn't work out. So we kind of have our two color palettes here. Just going to get our eyedropper tool. Those are kind of our main color palettes. We even have a gradient that we developed. So we're starting to kind of see this brand coming together, all these different brand assets. We have a watermark. All these different things are starting to come together. So let's see if I can't make that tan, or we can make it blue and do just go into my transparency and reducing it. You know, that's an option. I kind of like it kind of gray, more neutral. And so now we need to make sure we have this nice and center aligned, because right now I don't believe it is. So you can always pop on your grid, or you can have smart guides on. It's going to kind of tell you where the center alignment is as you move it around. Just making sure we have even spacing. You can always do like a little trick I do. Get a rectangle tool, make a rectangle, duplicate it, and just kind of see where, just make sure it's evenly spaced. And what we could do is, I think we have an opportunity to put the logo again on here for reiteration, but let's do the horizontal version of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to a previous file, and we have this horizontal version of the logo. Let's adapt some of these colors. I have an opportunity to put it on the top here as kind of a masthead and move all this down just a little bit. And let's collapse the spacing between these now that we have the logo up top. We want to not have too much spacing, but we want to have enough there. So you notice when I position these things on the business card, I'm not putting anything too close to the edge. See, that would be way too close. I have a lot of students who like to do that. Always have some nice margin, breathing room, and white space around all your edges. Never have anything too close to the edge. We could probably make this a different typeface to do some font pairing here. So I wonder if we have a chance to make her name the same as Malleable. but maybe not quite as much spacing, because we want to have that be in a tighter area. So just reducing the spacing and making her name a little bigger. Just kind of do some font pairing and bringing out some of that main typeface again in the typography. And I can make sure all of these are aligned, so I'm selecting all of them, and I'm going up to my left alignment panel, and I'm just going to do a horizontal align just to make sure those are nice and lined up. So there could be a photo opportunity here. We want to keep this nice and clean. So this is just one option. We can arrange this and show the client lots of different options. So we can even switch these around like this, which I think might look a little nice because you have this nice left alignment right bumped up against the left side. So there could be some nice things here. I'd love to tie in more of the gold in here. I almost wonder if we could do a little bar of gold. And I'm just going to take my eyedropper tool, go over the gradient we created. Going to take our gradient tool. I want to change the direction, have it be diagonal instead of across, because that looks kind of fake, but diagonal looks a little more realistic in this case. So just like a little tiny gold bar on the top of the business card. Just like that, just kind of bringing in that, or you can do it on the bottom. Leave the top nice and clean. And so when you send this to the client, you would communicate, maybe send a sample online that you find of gold foil stamping, so they will see that it won't print exactly like this, that it'll print a little bit how they see in the samples.